gravity of lies. The last days of Fall City. Dateline, Fall City, the city is falling. You wouldn't know it to look at them, but it is. The great anti-gravity cores, the arcane engines that hum at the heart of every foundation, do not run on magic alone. They run on truth. And in Fall City, truth is the most depleted resource of all. We float in a gossamer cage of our own making, a metropolis of spun crystal and reforged lightning, suspended miles above a world we have long forgotten. Our skyline is a jagged masterpiece of impossible architecture spires that coil like serpents, bridges of solidified light, and districts that drift in a slow, eternal waltz around the central, monolithic Ethelberg Tower. At night, the city is a violent bloom of neon, a cacophony of electric pinks, corrosive greens, and deep, abyssal blues that stain the low-hanging clouds. It is beautiful. It is a lie. And every lie, from the white, polite fiction to the soul-crushing, foundational deceit, is another pound of ballast tossed overboard. Every broken vow, every hidden sin, every whispered promise with fingers crossed behind one's back weakens the grip of reality on our city. Gravity is not a force here. It is a patience. And its patience is running out. The engine of our ambition. To understand the fall, you must first understand the ascent. Fall City was not always airborne. Legends speak of a ground-dweller era, a time of mud, scarcity, and brutal horizontal laws. Our ancestors, a cabal of the most brilliant and ruthless arcanists, architects, and politicians, devised a solution, not to conquer the land, but to abandon it. They discovered a fundamental principle of the universe, that certain, potent truths could be harnessed to counteract the pull of the mundane. The first truth: we are worthy of the sky. It was a truth born of arrogance, but a truth nonetheless. With it, they laid the first cornerstone of the Ethelberg Tower, and to the astonishment of all, it did not sink into the earth, but rather the earth seemed to shrink away from it. As the city grew, so did the complexity of the truths required. The great arcane engines, vast crystalline structures pulsing with inner light, were built not to generate lift, but to act as conduits and amplifiers for this collective, truthful intent. A contract with reality, signed in blood and sworn on soul. For centuries, it worked. The city rose, a testament to its own purported perfection. But perfection is a fragile state. To maintain the illusion, to keep the engines humming, the citizens of Fall City made a silent, collective pact. The truth, in its raw, inconvenient form, became a threat to civic stability. A lie, if it preserved the peace, if it maintained the facade, became a noble act. This is the cancer at our core. We have spent so long telling pretty lies to keep the lights on that we have forgotten how to tell the truth without plunging us all into darkness. The symptoms: a city unmoored. The fall is not a single event. It is a process, a slow-motion collapse that has been ongoing for generations. We are simply in the final, precipitous stage. The signs are everywhere if you have the courage to see them. 1. The flicker. It begins with the neon. The great signs that blaze across the cityscape, advertising everything from soul readings to synthetic euphoria, have started to stutter. It's not a power drain. The Magick engineers have checked and rechecked the grids. It's a contextual flicker. The sign for the sincerity bar might gutter and die just as a patron inside proclaims their undying love to a mark they intend to rob. A blazing advertisement for Veritas investments will flash into darkness the moment a broker inside whispers a fabricated tip into a calm crystal. The city's visual noise, its vibrant, chaotic soul, is becoming a strobing, unreliable witness to its own decay. 2. The float. This is the most literal and terrifying symptom. Loose objects, a pen, a data slate, a child's toy, have begun to exhibit sporadic anti-gravity. They don't just fall, they drift. A merchant shouting inflated prices to a tourist might find his wares gently lifting from his stall, hovering just out of reach. In the opulent halls of the Ethelberg spire, a politician delivering a rousing speech filled with empty promises might find their notes fluttering upwards, a cloud of paper betraying their lack of substance. It's a whimsical, haunting sight. A single, bright red balloon, escaped from a child's grasp, now floats perpetually over the Viridian district, a stark, cheerful monument to a broken promise. 3. The tremors. They call them reality shudders. At first, they were rare, explained away as Corey alignments or etheric turbulence. Now, they are a daily occurrence, a low, deep groan that seems to come from the very bones of the city, followed by a vibration that rattles teeth and sends unsecured crockery smashing to the floor. Except, increasingly, the floor is no longer a reliable destination. During a severe shudder last week in the iron market, the tremor didn't just shake the ground, it tilted it. Stalls, people, and a whole fountain slid sideways for a terrifying 10 seconds before the city righted itself with a sickening lurch. The official bulletins called it a localized gravitational anomaly. Everyone else called it what it was, the city slipping. 4. The silence of the crowds. This is the most chilling symptom of all. The denial. Walk through the bustling, neon-drenched streets of the Sinners' Row or the pristine, airy plazas of the Celestial Quarter, and you will see the same thing, people pretending. A man adjusts his tie in the reflective surface of a falling shard of window glass. A woman continues sipping her luminescent cocktail as the cafe terrace she sits on lists 20 degrees. Couples kiss, vendors hawk, and life goes on with a frantic, manic normalcy that is more insane than any panic. To acknowledge the fall is to accelerate it. So, they lie with their silence. They lie with their smiles. The city is a stage, and every citizen is an actor in a play that is burning down around them. Case study, the sincerity bar. Let's take a closer look at a single location to understand the mechanics of the collapse. The sincerity bar is a dive in the undertier, a place bathed in the sickly glow of a faulty pink neon sign that spells out its name with a tragic lack of self-awareness. The owner, a grizzled man named Kale with a face like a crumpled map, runs the place on a simple principle. Speak a truth, get a drink on the house. Tell a lie, and your tab doubles. It was a quaint gimmick when the city was stable. Now, it's a microcosm of the apocalypse. I sat in a corner booth last night, the stickiness of the table defying gravity in a dozen small, suspended droplets. The air hummed with the strain of the central engine, a mile above us. The bar's patrons were the usual assortment of low-level grifters, heartbroken souls, and those simply too tired to lie anymore. A young woman, her eyes wide with manufactured passion, told the man across from her, "I've never felt this way about anyone before." The moment the words left her lips, the pink neon of the bar's sign flickered and died, plunging the booth into momentary shadow. Kale, polishing a glass behind the bar, didn't even look up. He just tapped a button, and the woman's tab on the slate behind him glowed a warning red. Later, a man in a fine suit, clearly slumming it, boasted to his companions about a business deal that would make him a fortune. "The contract is as good as signed," he declared, ironclad. As he spoke, the heavy, wrought-iron stool he was perched on gave a sudden, violent lurch, lifting a foot off the floor before crashing back down. He spilled his expensive whiskey, his face a mask of shock and indignation. His friends laughed, a nervous, brittle sound. They blamed faulty mechanics. They did not blame the lie. Then there was Alara, a regular. She sat at the bar, her shoulders slumped. Kale placed a glass of amber liquid in front of her without her asking. "Bad day," he grunted. "I told my son the truth," she said, her voice hollow. "I told him his father isn't on a long-term arcane expedition. I told him he left us for a dancer in the Sapphire District and doesn't give a damn about either of us." The words hung in the air, ugly and raw. For a moment, the bar was silent. Then, a strange thing happened. The flickering neon sign outside steadied, its pink glow becoming constant, almost warm. The persistent, low-grade hum of the city's distress seemed to soften, just for a few seconds. The very air felt heavier, more substantial. Kale nodded. "Drinks on the house, Alara." It was a tiny victory. A single, honest breath in a city suffocating on deceit. But as she drank, a massive tremor hit. This one was different. It was accompanied by a sound, a great, metallic snap from the depths below. A sound that could only be a support girder the size of a city block finally giving way. The bar tilted. Bottles flew from their shelves, shattering in a rain of glass and liquor. Patrons screamed, this time unable to maintain the facade. The truth of their terror was too immediate, too visceral. In that moment, as the floor fell away to a 45-degree angle, and we all clung to whatever was bolted down, I saw it. Through the now cracked front window, a sight that will be burned into my mind until the moment the city meets the earth. The Ethelberg Tower, that proud, central spine of our world, was leaning. It was a slight, almost imperceptible list. But to those of us who knew its lines, it was as obvious as a scream in a silent room. And from its highest tiers, great chunks of crystal and metal were breaking off, not falling down, but tumbling away into the cloud-choked abyss below. The architecture of denial, the city's very design, is now a hazard. What was once a marvel is now a death trap. The coiling spires, famous for their beautiful helical structures, are now unraveling. The truth that bound their impossible shapes is eroding, and they are slowly, groaningly, returning to more conventional, unstable forms. The bridges of light, which connected the floating districts, are the first to go. They don't collapse, they simply fade, like a forgotten thought. One moment, a brilliant pathway of solidified energy exists, thronged with commuters. The next, it winks out of existence, and hundreds of souls are sent silently tumbling into the void, their screams swallowed by the wind. The wealthy in the celestial quarter believe themselves insulated. Their homes are powered by private, purified truth engines, and they pay veracity consultants exorbitant sums to help them craft public statements of such boring, bureaucratic honesty that it supposedly reinforces their foundations. It is the biggest lie of all. I have seen the reports from their own engineers. The fissures in their marble floors are just as wide. Their chandeliers sway with the same terrifying tremors. They simply have more expensive rugs to hide the cracks. The response from the Citadel, our governing body, has been a masterpiece of the form. Their broadcasts are a constant stream of reassuring falsehoods. The recent gravitational fluctuations are a scheduled part of the core realignment protocol, designed to ensure long-term stability. Lie, the core is tearing itself apart. Reports of structural decay are greatly exaggerated. Isolated incidents of material fatigue are being addressed by our dedicated engineering core. Lie, the engineering core was disbanded 6 months ago after they published a truth-filled report that caused 3 entire districts to drop 10 feet in a single, catastrophic lurch. Remain calm. Continue your daily lives. Fall City is eternal. The most pernicious lie of all. Their words are like pouring water into a sieve. The more they speak, the faster we sink. The psychology of the freefall. Why don't we revolt? Why don't we storm the Citadel and demand a return to truth? Because the psychology of Fall City citizens is a textbook case of mass delusion in the face of existential threat. To admit the city is falling is to admit that your entire life, your career, your relationships, built on a foundation of necessary social lies, are culpable. The man who lied to get his job, the woman who hides her past, the parent who fabricates stories to their children to be truly, wholly honest now would be to unravel their very identity. It is easier, far easier, to believe the central lie than to face the terrifying freedom of the truth. They have developed a lexicon of denial. They don't say tremor, they say the city is breathing. They don't say a district has fallen. They say it has achieved early descent. They don't speak of the void or the ground below, but of the unspoken landscape. This linguistic sleight of hand is a survival mechanism. If you don't name the monster, it doesn't exist. The city could be shearing in half around them, and you would hear them say, well, the Eastern Hemisphere is simply exploring a new dynamic spatial relationship. This denial is weaponized. Those who speak out, the doomsayers or gravity cults, are vilified. They are arrested not for sedition, but for creating public nuisance through reckless veracity. Their truths are too dangerous, too destabilizing. In Fall City, the greatest crime is honesty. Personal account. The final performance of the Gilded Mask. I witnessed the most grotesque example of this denial 2 nights ago at the Gilded Mask, an exclusive club in the now precariously tilted Celestial Quarter. The theme of the ball was Ground Dwellers' Fancy, a stunningly tasteless parody of the world below. The rich and powerful waltzed in costumes of faux mud and tattered rags, laughing as the crystal chandeliers above them swung in wild, jerking arcs. I was there under a false identity, a lie I told to get in the door, and I could feel the slight, sickening buoyancy of that deceit as I crossed the threshold. The party was a riot of color and noise, a desperate attempt to outshout the groans of the dying city. A famous soprano was singing an aria about the firm and steady sky when a particularly violent shudder hit. The marble floor beneath the dance floor cracked open with a sound like a gunshot. A chasm, 2 feet wide and bottomless, yawned in the center of the room. For a second, there was silence. The music stopped. The dancers froze. Then the host, Lord Valerius, clad in a ridiculous costume of peasant rags, woven from moon silk, clapped his hands. A new feature, how delightful. A reminder of the rustic charms we left behind. Musicians, play on. And they did. The orchestra, with terrified eyes, struck up a frantic waltz. The dancers, with fixed, manic smiles, simply danced around the chasm. They waltzed to the very edge, pivoted on a heel, and spun away, their laughter a hair's breadth from screams. They treated the void in their midst as a new piece of avant-garde interior design. I saw a woman in a magnificent gown of iridescent scales lose her pearl clutch. It tumbled from her hand, bounced on the edge of the crack, and vanished into the darkness. She didn't even gasp. She just kept dancing, her smile a rictus of painted-on joy, her eyes utterly dead. It was in that moment I understood we were not just doomed, we were already dead. We were just waiting for our bodies to catch up. The final truth. So, what is to be done? Is there a salvation for Fall City? The purists, the few remaining gravity cultists who meet in sealed, lead-lined rooms, believe there is. They preach a great confession, a citywide, simultaneous admission of every lie, every sin, every hidden truth. They believe the resulting surge of honesty would re-anchor the city so firmly it would never fall again. It is a beautiful, hopeless idea. The chaos would be unimaginable. The fabric of society would tear itself apart long before the truth could save it. The city would fall from the sheer weight of the unleashed horror. The pragmatists, a group I reluctantly find myself aligning with, believe it is too late. The cascade is irreversible. The lies are too deep, too systemic. The city is not suffering from an illness. It is in its death throes. Our only task now is to document the fall, to bear witness, to ensure that if anything, even a single scorched data slate, survives the impact, it will contain one thing: the truth. The truth that we did this to ourselves, that we chose a beautiful lie over an ugly reality. And in the end, reality always wins. As I write this, the tremors are constant. The flicker of the neon signs outside my window is now a persistent strobe, illuminating the falling debris in a hellish, discolate nightmare. The screams are no longer isolated, they are a chorus. The great, final lie, everything is fine, is crumbling. The city is not just falling, it is plunging. The wind is howling through the canyons of our towers, a requiem for the age of lies. You can feel the acceleration in the pit of your stomach, a lightening of the bones, a terrifying sense of release. Look out your window. See the Ethelberg Tower, now leaning at a 30-degree angle, a grotesque imitation of its former glory. See the districts breaking free, spinning away like leaves in a storm. See your neighbors, their masks of normalcy finally shattered, their faces etched with the pure, unvarnished truth of primal fear. This is it. The truth has run out. So let me end this transmission with the only words left that have any meaning, the only words that carry any weight. The last true words from Fall City. We are falling. I am scared. I am sorry. Addendum, a catalog of Fall's field notes. The following are fragmented entries from the author's personal log, recovered from a damaged data slate. Log entry 340, 7.1. The Quiet District. Witnessed the complete detachment of the Quiet District, a residential zone known for its strict, silence-based religious order. Their central tenet was all speech is deceit. They believed silence was the purest truth. For a time, their district was the most stable. But silence can hide lies as well as words. The rot was internal, unseen. The detachment was not violent. One moment it was there, a floating island of serene gardens and white towers. The next, it simply disconnected. It drifted away from the main city body, silent and serene as ever, its inhabitants likely still refusing to scream as it dwindled into a speck and was lost in the clouds below. A fall without a sound, the most terrifying kind. Log entry 348.7. The ad man came across a man on the roof of a collapsing advertising spire. He was desperately trying to repair a massive, holographic projector, its image of a smiling, perfect family flickering madly. "I can fix it," he screamed over the wind, tools scattering from his belt and floating away. The brand just needs consistency, a reassuring message. The platform beneath him gave way. He fell, but not before grabbing a trailing power cable. He dangled there, 1,000 feet above nothing. And as the hologram of the perfect family finally died above him, he looked at me, his face a perfect mask of confusion, and said, "But the campaign was flawless." Then the cable snapped. Log entry 349. The child. In the wreckage of a park, a child was crying, clutching a broken toy. A man, presumably her father, knelt beside her. "Don't worry, sweetheart," he said, his voice trembling. "We'll get you a new one, a better one. Everything is going to be okay." It was a gentle lie, a loving lie, the kind parents tell every day across the world. The moment the words left his lips, the patch of ground they were standing on, a small, grassy knoll separated from the rest of the park, with a sound of tearing earth. It hovered for a moment, a solitary island with 2 terrified occupants, then dropped like a stone. The father's final, true scream was the last thing I heard from them. Some lies, it seems, are heavier than others. Log entry 350 final. The last broadcast. The citadel is gone. It was the first major structure to go. The sheer density of the lies emanating from it must have finally created a gravitational singularity of falsehood. It didn't fall, it inverted, collapsing in on itself in a silent, shimmering implosion. There was no grand explosion, no final, defiant lie from the authorities. Just nothing. A hole in the skyline where the seat of power used to be. The ultimate irony. The architects of our demise were the first to be consumed by the vacuum of their own deceit. The sky is no longer above us. It is all around us. The ground is a concept, a myth. We are in the between place now. The air is thin. The cold is absolute. This is my last entry. My truth is spent. The slate is almost out of power. I can see the curve of the world below. It is beautiful. It is real. We are coming home.